Go. Welcome to Next Economy MBA Introduction, Meet the Facilitators Q&A for the forthcoming 6th cohort, MBA 6. And this is our last planned intro session before the start of the 6th cohort, which is currently scheduled for about a month from today. My name is Kevin Bayuk. I'm a worker owner at Lift Economy Cooperative. And I'm going to start by just saying, what is the Next Economy MBA? Why are we doing this? There is some information on the website, but the backstory for us doing this idea of a 9-month learning experience called the Next Economy MBA has to do with the work that Lift Economy does as a cooperative consultancy. So we help a lot over many years now, a decade or so of working with small emerging organizations and growing organizations that were intent on delivering needed goods and services to their community, but do it in a way that is, you can use different words here, anti-capitalist, to do it in a way that's transformative, change the nature of the way that we meet our needs as humans so that we don't find ourselves exploiting people or planet in the way that we do business or organize ourselves. And so we've helped hundreds of organizations, whether they're B Corps, multi-stakeholder cooperatives, perpetual purpose trusts, all these fancy structures that are distinct and different from business as usual norms of how business works or how capitalism works. And along the way, people would ask us occasionally, like, I'm thinking about starting something, but I haven't started a co-op, or I'm in a small co-op, but I don't think we want to do consulting. Do you have like another way for us to learn about all these things that you're discovering? And after hearing that a number of times over a number of years, we finally said, let's try putting together a learning experience, a journey. And Ryan, actually on the call here, another partner at Lift Economy, said, why don't we call it the Next Economy MBA? Because none of this stuff is in any MBA programs that we see out there, because so many of our clients were, MBA grads or that kind of thing. And they're like, we never learned any of this stuff. And so that's where we tried this on. And now 5-6 cohorts later, we're finding that people are still finding value in learning about these new structures, new approaches, new ways of organizing each other as businesses or organizations, whether it's a nonprofit or a co-op, and how do we work together to meet our needs for our community and ourselves, and create livelihoods and vocations. So that's the backstory. One final thing in the backstory is there's a secret agenda of doing the Next Economy MBA that has evolved over time. And it has to do with that the people who we find enrolling as participants in the Next Economy MBA are some of the most inspiring people that we've ever met. So it's very exciting for us to now see there's over 250 people who have enrolled in the Next Economy MBA. And as more and more people join, there's this kind of growing alumni network of extraordinarily inspiring and this mutual support network. And so when I say secret agenda, it's very great for us to hang out with some of the coolest people that we've ever had the chance to meet in this kind of learning journey, and then build this amazing network, because we always learn about, like, oh, here's this very cool project and we need to hire this person, or here's a philanthropist, impact investor who's looking to invest in co-ops in this area. And it's so fun to be able to make those connections within a cohort, within an alumni network. So that's one of the outcomes that has been very inspiring for us. So I wanted to go into introducing the other Lift team members who are here. Again, my name is Kevin Bayuk, and I'm a worker owner at Lift Economy. And I have just a general background in working with everything from climate change stuff at a think tank called Project Drawdown, I'm a co-founder of something called the Urban Permaculture Institute. And I also have like this long background in enterprise and business and capital and finance. And I bring all those things together, kind of mashed up in the work that I do. Erin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. Erin, I'm standing right now on unceded Ohlone territory in the East Bay Hills. And my background is in agroecology and food systems. And I really bring that to the work I do at Lift Economy, especially from a justice and equity lens, and looking at how we can overcome the paradox of food in this country as being simultaneously too cheap and way too expensive. And so how do we innovate soil health ecosystems that can support growing food, and then the economics of getting that food to people in ways that don't deplete and exploit and extract people or planet. And also how that relates to our fiber systems, our clothing systems, and even our shelter and building realm. And so I'm really, really happy to be here and happy to share that there have been a number of alumni that have been engaged in food systems work, and the connections therein have been really, really inspiring to see more people being connected to multi-stakeholder worker-owned farms, and how we can connect and federate the work. So I'll pass it to Ryan, and so grateful to have you all here.
Thanks, Erin. Hey everyone, I'm Ryan Honeyman, also a partner at Lyft. I'm based in the coast of Miwok land, which is San Rafael, California, in the Bay Area. And I guess a little introduction about me. I joke that I'm a B Corp nerd. I helped co-author the B Corp handbook. I've helped about 50 different companies do the B Corp certification process, from like Allbirds and Ben & Jerry's and Patagonia. And so really familiar with the B Corp community and the B Corp world. And then on some other areas that I sort of specialize in, you know, sort of the marketing and communication side, and some of the personal productivity stuff. I can really nerd out on that. And I think another piece that's sort of important to preface for this call is there's a strong like justice, equity, diversity, inclusion focus throughout this whole course. There's not necessarily like one section on it, it just touches everything. So we talk about, you know, racial capitalism, the intersection of racism and capitalism. You know, we talk about hiring, creating a diverse and inclusive culture. We talk about dismantling white supremacy. We have caucuses, or, you know, groups for white allies to learn more about racial justice. And we have POC, BIPOC caucus for folks of color to sort of have similar discussion space. So that's something that each of the Lyft team is really passionate about. And so, yeah, we're very excited to have you all show interest in the course. Kevin, do you want to speak to our other partners who are Sean and Phoenix, or?
Yeah, just as an example, there's two other core facilitators that will be facilitating the Next Economy MBA Cohort 6. Sean Berry, who can't be here with us today, has a deep background in cooperatives and actually a deeper background in nuclear physics. I don't even know where he uses that, but he's been in the cooperative movement for 20 years. And then Phoenix Soleil, another core Lyft team worker owner whose focus has been on compassionate communication, nonviolent communication, resolving conflict within communitarian groups or co-ops, as well as a depth of experience in facilitating conversations about race and diversity, equity, and inclusion expertise as well. And they're unfortunately not able to join us today, but they are core members of the team who will be essential in producing the learning experience. Wanted to quick check, is Dan Moreno, are you here by chance? Maybe not yet. we have a an alumni who wanted to come and share and answer your questions from an alumni's perspective, and he might join in a moment. But
he's not in the waiting room, right, Kevin?
No, there's one person who's in the waiting room now, but it's not him. So we received a lot of great questions in kind of, we categorized them. There's questions about the structure of the format of the Next Economy MBA. There's questions about the content, like what do you cover? Then there's questions about like the benefits, you know, what's involved and how applicable is it to me in my situation. There's a number of different situations that were put into the questions. Then there's some logistics questions. And then a couple questions about Lyft economy. So a couple different buckets. But before we go through, and there's great questions, and we're happy to just try and address all of them, wanted to open it up. You're welcome to unmute or put it in the chat. Does anybody have a question that's really sitting with them? It could be the one that you typed in as well, because we'll get to it. But if you just want to use your voice and bring your voice into the Zoom, I'm happy to answer a live question if somebody is like, oh, I've been wanting to know this about the training. And again, it could be in the chat, or if you want to unmute, no pressure. Well, I'll start with one of the ones that came in then, and we can build on it. One of the questions was around kind of the structure. What is the format? How much time to plan for over the 9 months kind of the core training? Aaron, do you want to jump in with that, or do you want me to start responding?
Please go ahead. Yeah,
okay.
Please go ahead. I'm connecting with Dan to see if he can join.
Great. Okay. So the training is scheduled to start in about a month. So on in April, on the 13th of April, Tuesday the 13th is the start date. And in advance of that, there will be a number of materials that will be sent to kind of orient everybody to kind of the deeper syllabus and some lots of reading and viewing potential of materials for preparation. But the core training is 9 months, and it's 2 sessions a month, live facilitated sessions. Most of those are 90 minutes. The first 2 are fully 2 hours long. The first 2, there's a lot more to get to. There's getting to know each other, as well as a lot more to go through. Every single session is followed by a 1 hour office hour later that week. So if there's a session on a Tuesday, then on the Friday, there's a 1 hour office hour. The office hour, where each session has kind of an outline and content. The content is interactive. And so there's hypothetical exercises that we break out into small groups. There's questions at the outset where we ask, you know, what are you curious about related to this topic? And then we'll share in a moment, there's another communications platform for the training cohort to actually put in questions or case studies. Every session has one or more, mostly multiple case stories of organizations that we've worked with or that we know about related to the particular topic. And yeah, there's other ways that we try and keep it interactive.
What's like an example, Kevin? What's like an example of you have a company, just so folks can get a sense of like.
Yeah, who we're talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll even share my screen. I'll do a quick example of a case story that we've used before. Oops, let me flip through here. Here's an example of, on the one hand, it's a farm in Oregon, but it's a different type of farm. So on 65 acres in Sherwood, Oregon is this cooperative called Our Table. And what makes it strange and exciting to us is that there's about 20 or so farms in the United States right now that are actually partially or fully owned by the workers. And as you know, exploitation of labor in the world of agriculture is unfortunately rampant. And so the workers at our table actually are part owners of the farm, but actually there's also a network of producers, other farmers and ranchers, winemakers and others in the region, in the Willamette area, who are also part owners of the farm. And then there's consumers who live around the farm who are also part owners. So it's a multi-stakeholder cooperative farm, which enables a couple of different interesting things. The farm itself also is partially what we call vertically integrated. This might sound like a lot of jargon at first, multi-stakeholder, vertically integrated. But what that means is they have like a small commercial kitchen and prep space so they can actually create prepared meals and store food. They have also a small little micro marketplace at the physical location of the farm. And so that makes it very unique that you have the workers, the consumers, and regional producers all able to participate in some way in the governance and decide things like Aaron talked about, like the distortions in the food system. How much should the food cost? How much should the workers be paid? And they can actually make those decisions collaboratively. And why that's exciting to lift economy is you get better outcomes. The farmers are paid almost twice the wages of other farm workers in the area. And the food for organic biodynamic food is as accessible as other food in that organic category, or cheaper in some cases, especially for certain customers or for prepared meals. And so that's the type of outcome that could happen. Now, does one farm change the food system? No, but if you could imagine it being replicated 1,000 times over, this is the type of thing that could actually begin to change the entire economy. I'll give one more quick other example. Is this something called East Bay Permanent Real Estate Cooperative. And so this is a enterprise, it's a co-op in this case, that is playing some of the role of like the community land trust, kind of combined with a worker cooperative, kind of combined with a limited equity housing co-op. What the heck does that mean? Basically, it's taking land and the co-op is actually leveraging community investors and community capital, purchasing land and housing and making it permanently affordable, especially in the Bay Area in California here, the San Francisco Bay Area, where housing is quickly, where there's a lot of gentrification and the violence of gentrification, exploitation and displacement. And so by taking land and housing and making it permanently affordable for community leaders, community activists, artists, and others who are kind of chronically at risk of displacement, is a different way of doing the economy of housing, making housing a human right. Rather than a way to exploit people and marginalize people. So those are two examples that came up of case stories.
I wanted to build on the East Bay Permanent Real Estate Cooperative case story to share. There was a question around what kind of opportunities might be available after completing the MBA. And while I think that question, it's a bit hard to answer given that there's, there's so many different ways that people enter into the space of next economy work. And but I just wanted to share that two of our alumni now work at EB-Prec, and I believe Miliako probably would have found East Bay Prec. She may have even known about it before our MBA, but certainly some of the content that we talk about, and I just think these are some of the examples, EB-Prec as a case study, and there are other stories of alumni finding some of these places that otherwise are categorically invisibilized and marginalized from contemporary media, from much of what we're aware of as solutions and possibilities, given that most of the mainstream media is not incentivized to cover these types of stories that we talk about in the case studies. So I just wanted to share that.
Great.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
One
Ryan,
last thing I'd say is just the reason that this is important is because no other MBA programs are really looking at companies like these. Like there's no like, I'm not saying this to hype our course, but like there's literally, this doesn't exist. And it's one of the reasons we created the course, is because if you go to a traditional MBA program or to learn more business as usual, it's like, let's look at Starbucks and figure out how Nike and Starbucks are really changing the paradigm, which is like, yes, we do need Nike and Starbucks because they're like, you know, incrementally better than the like bad sort of versions of them. We have this thing called the two loops model, which we'll like nerd out on. We might even show in here, but like you need companies that are sort of being better than the old economy, but we're most MBA programs, or maybe even all, will not talk about these sort of like locally self-reliant co-op or other organizations that are doing really innovative things that are much beyond sort of just sort of average sustainability, because they're culturally invisible, because they're not like a giant company and they're not like VC funded. They're not getting like $100 million from the top VC. So what we're really trying to bring to light is like, these are really important projects and programs and businesses that are changing and creating the next economy. It's just, they don't get talked about. So I just wanted to put that in.
Great, thanks, Ryan. Well, that's a lot so far. So as you're taking this in, if you have any questions, again, feel free to unmute, or you could chat in a question as it arises. Does anybody have anything that's kind of top of mind that's coming alive in them at this moment? And again, you put in some.
And it can even be apart from the course. It could even be something you're grappling with around currently, you know, an enterprise you're starting, or something that you think would be relevant. We often use the course as a vehicle for the people who've joined the course to actually, you know, work through some of the struggles that entrepreneurs are facing who are trying to change the system. I think that's actually one of the things that I find most valuable is the learning community, from learning from what others are struggling with, and kind of collectively grappling with it, rather than getting trapped in this individualistic approach to like overcoming challenges.
I have a quick question about calling it an MBA. I saw that it's not accredited, which I don't personally care about, but I'm curious, like, do people get in trouble for saying like, I have an MBA when it's not accredited? Or like, can you speak a little bit to like me calling it an MBA?
I can speak to that. So there's a few other sort of like alternative MBA programs out there. Like Seth Godin is a famous marketer who has one called the Alt MBA, which is like a 30-day MBA. There's also other MBA courses that are not accredited. So we had this sort of balance in mind where we were like, do we call it, say, the Next Economy Business Program, or the Next Economy, you know, Next Economy Future or something? But it's like there's sort of a cultural understanding of like an MBA of like, okay, I'm going to learn like these fundamental business skills. So we tried to marry the idea of Next Economy with MBA, even though we know MBA is sort of like has some fraught connotations to it. And it's unaccredited because like there's literally no way any accreditation body would be like, you're teaching about like indigenous economics and racial justice, and like what are like, it just doesn't compute for like accreditation programs. And so it is sort of a thing for folks to think about, is like, and traditionally, like when you get a accredited MBA or you have like a formal MBA, it's usually the only companies that care are like large multinationals who are like, do you have your MBA? And I want to see the certificate. But if you have the business skills, we found that it's much less of a barrier or a burden to just working in the sort of normal economy, I guess, outside of corporation multinationals.
Ryan, that actually reminds me of a question that was put in advance, which if there are no other live questions we could go to. Is there any other questions that are?
Excuse me, I had a live question.
Yeah.
Hi there.
Please.
Thanks so much for doing this. I was just curious if COVID has changed much in the way that you structure things.
We started the course as an online course. So not real. The only thing that has changed is we have had to pause on our on life gatherings. So what we've noticed is that there's these hubs of alumni networks in Atlanta, Georgia, in the Hudson Valley, in the East Bay of California, in a little bit starting in Detroit. But we were starting to do live gatherings, and we were really excited about that, because a lot of the curriculum is very place-based in terms of federating and connecting gaps, needs assessments in your community, and what might be possible when we work together to meet our needs locally in a bioregional assessment. And so we've had to pause on that. So that's been a little bit of a sad part, but what we found is that, since we started it as an online program, we did that intentionally to make it really accessible for folks. That most of the, it's been a pretty fluid transition, even with a global pandemic. And we've actually had some special sessions around, as an example, in MBA 4, when the pandemic first hit, we started having sessions about what would it look like if we collectivized our stimulus checks, rather than just having those stimulus checks meet our own individual needs. What if we actually had collective pools where we invested in someone's rainwater catchment system or invested in someone's home garden? And how could we actually change some of the systems that are making us beholden to reliance on financial infrastructure exclusively to meet our needs? How do we broaden and really tap into multiple forms of capital? So it's been responsive, but I would say that the main facilitation of the online course has stayed consistent, given that we already were doing a virtual program. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions alive for folks? I wanted, oh, go ahead.
It looks like Dan is joining us, and in just a moment is connecting to audio.
Hey.
But maybe, and so Dan could answer questions as an alumni who's somebody who's taken the training before. So you might have questions for Dan. Hey, Dan.
Hey, Kevin, nice to see you, man.
Likewise, great to see you.
I see that you're also having the long hair.
We both have some COVID impacts, huh?
Indeed.
Dan, if it's okay to put you on the spot as you joined, do you want to take a couple minutes and just share about your experience with the Next Economy MBA, what it was like for you? And then maybe we could open it up to questions. And sometimes instead of hearing the facilitators speak about it, it's better to hear from somebody who was actually in the training. So would you be open to that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I signed up for this.
Okay, great. Well, why don't you go
and
ahead?
Dan,
go ahead,
hi.
Hi, Erin.
Also, just wanted to share, if you want to share the projects you're working on, I know you're doing a lot of amazing work. So feel free to share that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do it. Well, hey guys, nice to see all of you here interested in this. Like I myself was in that same spot a few years back, and I'm still there. It's really, I really enjoyed when I signed up I'm from the Cohort 1. I was following the podcast as I finished my master's degree. I studied a master's degree in environmental science, policy, and management. And for me, what was interesting is I kept looking for the right way to, have some meaningful or do some meaningful work for the planet and for society. And I studied first energy and then environmental sciences. But what I found in environmental sciences is that we mostly focus on problems and not so much in solutions sometimes. And that was a little bit of the academic perspective. And for me it was okay, so I see these problems, but how can I help? And that's how I kind of got close to social business. And I found the Next Economy podcast, and I really started enjoying it. And when I heard that they were doing an MBA, I just wanted to be there. And well, lucky enough, I'm from Mexico, and I studied in public university that really I didn't pay anything. And I got the scholarship for my master's degree in EU, and I also didn't pay for anything. And I did pay for the Next Economy MBA, and still, like, for me, that was because of my values and because of what I learned. For me, that was the most rewarding. I could call it academic experience, but it's not really academic experience, but like the insights and the learnings that I got there, and just, I don't know. Sometimes I felt a little bit alone in what I'm trying to do, and how I try to, sometimes in my social circles, there was not so many people that also were, trying to put their values into action in their work, and just trying to make something different. I'm sure that some of you might feel the same way. Some others actually might have like really good spheres of people trying to do something more meaningful. But for me, I felt a little bit alone. So it was really nice to find this niche of people that shared my beliefs and how you can do good and do well. So it was for me really amazing. At the moment, I was working in the power grid controlling agency in Mexico, and then I left my work to become an entrepreneur. I was doing it while I was in the program, and it's been quite a trip from there. It has I have had a lot of learning. I'm still learning a lot, and I'm still I have pivoted several times and look into different things, and I'm still learning a lot. But I mean, it really it's part of who I am, and I really am thankful of all the learnings that I got and the community that I got from Next Economy MBA. So I can ask, answer some questions if you have any, or I can tell you that a little bit of what I am up to. I don't know. What do you prefer? I just don't want to be like in a monologue.
I think it would be great to hear a little bit of what you've been up to, and then there are some questions coming up in the chat, like which I can respond to Dulce's question. Basically, just before Dan shares what he's been up to, Dulce, that how we assess, it's more leaning in like a self-assessment. So what you get out of it is much more important for the learning journey than, what any of the facilitators would, grade you or, but we do have a whole host of extra fun assignments. We don't call them homework because we know a lot of people have trauma associated with imposed homework assignments. And so we call them extra fun, and they're always available to you even outside of your cohort. And so, I don't know if Dan, you have an experience of going back to, like, say the, strategic positioning extra fun or something like that. So that's one way that we can observe that you're engaging in the course material, but really it's a self-directed learning journey, I would say. And we do have a certification as well that we can give you if you watch the videos, and then the way we measure that is we just ask you to give us feedback on them. So we ask you to fill out the feed. We really, really love feedback. We're very responsive to it, and we try to encourage however we can folks to give feedback after every session. And so that's one way that when we give you a certification, we ask that you just fill out feedback after every session, and we read everyone, and we actually mold the course based on participant feedback of what can make your learning even better. But yeah, Dan, feel free to share what you're up to, and if you have any other thoughts on that question.
I think like the way that the program is structured, it's really nice and really interesting. If you are already developing a project, either if you are an entrepreneur or intrapreneur, you do get a lot of structure with with the extra homework, extra fun, and with the a lot of worksheets. And the questions, it really, you know, makes you ask yourself a lot, why am I doing this? Like, how can I make this social enough, but also like pragmatic enough so that it also works? And it's really, I think it gives you a lot of structure. And then you have to be, this is like some of the part that often fails. You have to have this discipline to go with it, and you know, keep doing the extra fun and all this tasks, and it really helps you. What else? I like my own personal journey into this is I don't know, I finished my master's degree, and many things kind of like came easy for me. And like I entered into a competitive university rather easily. I got my first work rather easily. I got my master's degree rather easily. And for me, I just started learning about social entrepreneurship, and I thought like, okay, this is cool. So I just have to be smart and perseverant and work for it, and I'll get it. And sometimes it's what I find out, it's a bit more than that. Like for example, one of the key learnings that I have had in these 2 years, it's that you have to have an amazing team, because like being a solopreneur, it's really hard. And I'm not saying that, you know, people cannot do it, but it's complicated. You know, sometimes something might happen, or whatever, you're not motivated one day, or something bad happens in your life, and it can be complicated. And if you don't have a good, strong team with a diverse team with different talents, each of the people in the team, you might lose the inertia that you're winning. So I mean, I was developing I tried to develop platform, a crowd investing platform for social projects, because for me, you know, it just made sense. You put your money where your heart is, you know, and invest with your values, and then earn money, and also, I don't know, help people and the planet. But then I realized that, well, in Mexico, like unlike the US, that at least more than 50% of people actually invest. But in Mexico, there is just like one legal instrument that makes it mandatory to invest if you are working, but you have actually no idea of where your investments are, and less than 1% of people are actually investing. So context was really important, and I tried to do something because I thought it was the best for the world and society here in Mexico. But then I didn't realize that like getting attention for this was going to be really hard. How US-centric is the program? Like me being outside of US, I will say like the knowledge is really what you get from it. It's really it applies everywhere. The community mostly is in the US, so like you do feel it sometimes, but everything that you get from it, it's really, it can be applied anywhere. So that's how I will answer that. And yeah, well, right now but like really the community is amazing. There is a lot of emails that sometimes people are offering jobs, sometimes are offering like opportunities. People are sharing what they're doing, and it's the kind of community, like probably if you're here, and interested into this, this is kind of like, this is part of the community where you want to be, that you want to be a part of. Right now, I posted something, like we also have a high-low community, and I posted that I am offering right now, we have workshops and a game that it's called the Climate Collage, that it's to raise awareness about climate change. And it's a game that was developed in France, and it has not taken so much popularity here in the Americas. So not in Latin America, nor in North America. And what the mission is to raise awareness for 1 million people about climate change. And it's really amazing because it's a collaborative game where you really understand, like anyone can understand, or almost anyone, how climate change works. And it's simple, but it's not simplistic. It's not oversimplified. And it's scientific because it's based on the IPCC, and it's pedagogic because it has like a lot of, like, it's collaborative, but you are also, it has gamification. It has many things that makes it a really good game. And I just posted something on the high-low community, and tomorrow I have a meeting with Cindy.
Great. Cindy
talk
Lynn.
about it. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
so that's
Cindy,
a great example of one, because you were not in the same cohort as Cindy, is that correct?
No.
Right,
No,
so
I actually come.
I was going to say, so that's an example of, like, we're finding more and more ways for the alumni to connect on projects. A couple of different alumni from different cohorts connected on a fundraising effort recently. One person from MBA cohort 1 hired somebody from MBA cohort 3. And so we're seeing some of these interactions amongst the alumni start to emerge. And I expect that we'll see more of that as more people enter the training over time. So at about 250 people right now, not everybody's active in the alumni yet, but that's something that we're trying to do over time. I'm also just watching the time today, and I see there's a question. And so, Deanne, is there anything you want to say as closing thoughts? And we can let you go if you have to drop, but I want to make sure we grab the questions.
No, that I think that will be it. I really, like, for me, it was really amazing it is really amazing to be part of this community. And even though I don't know if you have had more people from Mexico or Latin America yet, I think there was a person from Colombia that Liz was interested in. Erin connected me with him at one point, and we talked, like, briefly. But I still feel very connected with the community. Doesn't matter where they are. I can always reach out to them and say, I'm doing this, or I'm interested into this, and ask for something or offer something, or, you know, this is amazing. For me, this is one of the strongest points, definitely, aside of what you really learn, which is also really
great. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. And you're welcome to hang on, or if you have to drop, we understand.
Hang on.
Okay, was there a question?
Yeah, hi, thank you all so much for doing this. This is awesome. One of my questions is about learning styles, and obviously online presents limitations already. So, you know what, for me, in thinking about like decolonizing education, the way that we learn is really important. Like, I'm looking for something really like embodied. I'm looking for experiential learning. I'm looking for something that really engages more than just like my brain and my you know, mental intelligence. So I'm just curious if you'd be willing to speak to like what kinds of holistic or other ways of learning that you incorporate, if at all, and like how those sort of link with the other kinds of conversations that are happening around the decolonization. And, you know, I don't want to learn inside of a white supremacist like container anymore, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And Aaron or Ryan, I don't know if you want to jump in, but maybe I'll start with some thoughts. This is something that we're sympathetic to the perspective of the decolonizing learning experience. Part of that we see is like from the structure, instead of having like educators, instructors, and students, The first breakdown is it's more, we look for more a peer-to-peer mutuality. So the facilitation of a learning experience where the content, even though there's a framework for content, like Aaron said, it's actually adaptive, responsive, and emergent from what kind of gets contributed by the field of participants. And so that the wisdom that gets shared is definitely not unidirectional, like the white supremacist top-down, we know the answer and here's the answer. It's definitely this emergent kind of quality. How that happens is there's a lot of, we attempt to do breakouts so that more voices can be included in the synthesis and integration of any information, whether it was brought forward by another participant or as part of the kind of content framework, that there's opportunities to try it on in a context. So it's like role playing in some cases, which can be, you know, a trigger for some people, but some people are more comfortable with that kind of like kinesthetic, actually, let's try this on. In other cases, there's, I'll let Aaron and Ryan talk about some of the other shifts in pedagogy that we're trying to make. And the one thing I'll say off the bat, it's not 100% there. So we every cohort, every session, we learn and we're getting better at decolonizing education. But I'd hate to set the expectation that we've totally dialed it in and we've solved for all of that. I wish I could say that maybe someday, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, I would really agree with that last statement. A couple things that have come up more recently is integrating more arts-based learning. We've had a participant this session who has experience and expertise, and they've actually brought a lot of those skills, and we've started to weave them in. We also try and remind people to be aware and conscious of their body as much as possible, especially in 90-minute Zoom sessions. We take bio breaks and also encourage people to do that. And we take we try and break it up in the middle. Sometimes Ryan will DJ a dance break for us. I wanted to say one other thing, which is that we are responsive from a standpoint of often embarking on special sessions. So as interest level emerges, we have a group of leaders that we rely on to come in and teach special sessions. And so they're entrepreneurs that are out grappling with real life day-to-day tensions around how to make this change in our economic systems. And so we love to bring their expertise and wisdom in for special sessions on topics that are specifically requested by the current cohort. And then those are available as well to alumni community. And we're definitely going to be ramping those up for the alumni. So it'll be included, everyone who, and alumni will sometimes drop in as well to the current cohort. We have a kind of lifetime membership, if you will, for the MBA. So oftentimes, because we know you're busy, you have a lot of commitments, you're making the change out there in the world, you may not be able to make every single session of your particular cohort. And we recognize that jumping back in on a subsequent cohort may be a more achievable way for you to integrate the content at the timeliness that is right for you in the kind of cyclical nature of your own enterprise development. Yeah, this is a great question, and we again would love feedback and partnership in how we collectively dismantle systems of learning that have been hierarchical and top down, and collectively build new ways of sharing and learning knowledge together.
Are there any other live questions? Live questions are the best. So we have a few more questions that we've gathered from the original. I've posted some stuff into the chat, so hopefully if you're able to watch the chat, there was some logistic stuff. Other live questions. Some people had questions about the curriculum or like what topics.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, thanks for doing this. It's cool to hear that a couple of you have permaculture, agroecological backgrounds. I have a small farming on enterprise in the East Bay. And I think like a question I have several years in is around burnout and just like making sure, you know, like Dan said, being an entrepreneur is really draining in many ways and quite difficult. And yeah, I just have questions around burnout and how to like resource ourselves as entrepreneurs so we can stay in it for the long haul. And I'm wondering if those kinds of conversations come up in the curriculum. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for that question. I want to say that you'll come out of the MBA with all the answers to burnout, and I wish that were the case. You know, one of the things that I lean on when I see like energy drains in my community is that the current business as usual economic system is actually designed to create burnout. It's not designed for cooperation. We don't have a lot of opportunities for practicing those cooperative skills. And so the antidote, as I see it, for one of the antidotes as I see it for burnout is fostering new relational networks in ways that are mutually reciprocal and not extractive. And so especially within farming communities too. But so we do talk a lot about this. We have one of our first sections after we so in the structure of the course, one of the very first things we do is we talk about what is the shared literacy around some of the problems. And once we can understand how the system is set up to extract and exploit from us, we can see more clearly why burnout happens, why people get exhausted when they're trying to change the system, why people who are trying to change the system constantly feel like they're alone and they're marginalized and nobody else understands, you know, why they're feeling the exhaustion of being in such an unhealthy system. And then we have some principles that we share, 10 principles that we've seen entrepreneurs being successful at when employing those principles in our enterprises. And then we go into vision and culture. And the whole session on culture is all about creating resilient roles that are well-defined and well spread out, that leverage people's talents and gifts, but also help people say no to the things that they aren't passionate or inspired to do. So we definitely try and cover it. And I would say this is you've hit on probably one of the most important and challenging aspects of doing this work is the fact that it is highly, highly disincentivized in our current economic system. And so that burnout is really real, and self-care is paramount. And community care is the only path to self-care is having others in your community that will give you permission to take time to take that work on ourselves. I'm taking some time off right now. Right after this call, I'm going to be going on a trek in the East Bay Hills, backpacking from my house to Anthony Chabot Park, just to take some time away from the computer, because it's so important to nourish yourself.
Thanks, Erin. And Marianne, if I have any follow-up to that'd be fine too. I did see Hannah posted a great potent question here, which I want to address real quick. And then I also want to address the time at the moment. The question here is, are people at a disadvantage in the course if they don't already have a specific business they are working on or dreaming up? And I would say that we've designed the training to accommodate the needs of both those types of individuals who are at the place where they are currently working on something or that they're dreaming of something. Then there's the co-design for also those who want to they know that there's something that they might do some point, but they're still not sure what it would be because they're in a searching mode. And in that searching mode, it might be like, maybe I'm going to get a job first, or a vocational, like a livelihood opportunity within the next economy context first, and I want to know about those types of opportunities, or I'm in discovery mode about what I might want to do. So I don't have a specific dream in mind, and I don't have a specific enterprise. I will say that the training is probably best fit for those two broad categories: those who have something they're working on or have a specific dream, and then those who are in discovery mode looking for either jobs and like vocational pathways, or they might start something some point, but they're in discovery as to what it might be. The training is probably best designed for that. Just for extra information, there are some people who join the training kind of like with an academic interest in next economy. That's fine. And I think the training hits many of those categories. And then there's some people who join the training because they want to be like, do impact investing or giving or lending, philanthropy or investing in next economy. And the training, I think, also hits some of them, but those last two categories may be less so than the first two. So if that makes sense. But I would say you're not at I would guess that you're not at a disadvantage if you don't know what to do. What we've seen from, and I'm basing that on the feedback. We've had people feedback say, this is great. I got an idea from one of the breakouts that I'm now developing into the dream of what I want to do, which to me is an indicator that they came in without that, and then they emerge out of it with it. And then we have had a number of people said, I just kind of want to get a job and I want to know what's out there, but I want to be informed by next economy principles and literacy. So that's happened as well. So I'm basing my opinion on the feedback, but it's a good question. So watching the time, it's at the hour. We can definitely extend the recording. There's many other questions that were submitted. We've touched on a lot of them, and I've put some stuff in the chat to try and address a lot of the questions that came in from the Eventbrite forum. But I do want to make space for those of you who are here. And if anything, if you have to leave, totally understood. And you can reach out to Aaron, Ryan, myself, or actually any, or Phoenix or Sean, any of the team members involved in the Next Economy MBA.
One other quick thing before, if folks have to drop, the early bird pricing ends tomorrow. So if you do want to sign up, just so you know, there's, what is it, Kevin, 20, 30, 20%? What's the discount?
Yes, it's 20% off.
20% off.
Yeah.
So just as a tip for anyone.
And if that scarcity crunch doesn't feel like a fit for you and you need an extension for the early bird pricing, please let us know. We try, in some ways it's a good thing because it gets people, to take the leap. But in some ways we don't want to perpetuate like scarcity mentality of like, oh, I have to sign up tomorrow, even if you're not, you still have questions. So just reach out to us as well. And then in terms of this question about like size of cohort, I think there's a question in the chat around it may have been responded to in the chat, but I just wanted to speak to, we have found that with the online program, there's actually, we have this ability to have a lot of, we've seen, when there's, let's say there's 30 or 40 people in the program, it doesn't diminish the learning experience in a virtual format because we can do breakouts. So we have like dyads and triads, which allow people to get the one-to-one. And then, the more voices kind of populating the shared literacy about the concepts is we can really lean into that as a really important asset of the course. So I'm excited about that, to say that it's been going well for the past few cohorts. In the first cohort, we had obviously a smaller cohort, but the last few have been about 50 to 60. So usually 30 to 40 folks join live. But we'll see. We don't know what cohort 6 will bring. I just wanted to say thank you all so much, regardless of whether we see you in the MBA or not. thank you so much for doing the work you do, for the interest, even to have this in your concept and your realm of reference, and to spend an hour this morning thinking about the possibility of a different economy. I'm so, so grateful that people like you exist, because it's such a long trudge up a hill, and without each other, it's not fun. And I want to have fun as we make this shift. So thank you for being here, doing what you're doing.
Great. Yeah, likewise, really grateful for all the work that you're already doing, and yeah, your interest in potentially learning more together, contributing to this amazing community that's emerging around kind of the next economy. Curious, there was a number of questions that came in. I want to make sure there's time to explore if you have a specific question that has come in. So if anybody has any specific, like maybe there's like a content question. I saw, for example, somebody said, will we learn about co-ops and co-op legal structures? We have a session 5 is kind of the framework is around the structures of the next economy and cooperative structures within session 5, and of course the associated office hours. We also have a lawyer who comes in on session 11 and who specializes in the innovations in finance and raising capital and accessing resources and community capital, but also the same lawyer is an expert in cooperatives and cooperative structures. So anybody who has like legal questions, Aaron, myself, Ryan, we are not lawyers, but we do bring in legal counsel for those who have those kind of specific questions. And so maybe if you have questions about that, there's maybe I'll give a quick breakdown. The first 6 sessions are kind of committed to the literacy and the principles of what do we mean by next economy? This emergent economy that works for the benefit of all life. How could it be that we could trade and exchange goods and services as humans and do so in a way that actually doesn't destroy the planet or subjugate or exploit people? How could we actually meet all our needs, whether it's food, water, shelter, textiles, comfort, whatever, and do it in a way that actually regenerates, heals, and restores society and the planet? What that a next economy, we call it next because it's actually probably pretty ancient, looking at Afro-Indigenous wisdom and everything pre-colonial, there's a good reference point for economies that actually lead to reliable prosperity for humans for thousands of years in place without destroying their environment. And so there's a lot of good reference points and wisdom. So that's why it's not, sometimes we don't say the new economy, we say the next economy, because we've been in this period of colonialism and racism and exploitation and capitalism. And what's next is, it might be quite old, but it's next. And so this emerging next economy is something we talk about. So the first 6 sessions are a bit about the structures and the principles and the shared analysis of why capitalism is broken, and are there any good things about it, or is it all bad, and some shared group learning around that, and then some life design stuff as well. And then sessions 7 through 16 are more nuts and bolts, like, okay, with the next economy lens, how do I hire people? What about providing benefits to workers and coworkers? How do we do that? What about financial literacy? What is a profit and loss statement? If we're outside of capitalism, why is that important? Or is there anything important there? And what does it look like? And how do you, if you need to access more money, how do I do it without just doing banks and venture capital? What are the alternatives in the next economy so that we don't have to be driven by profit and capital interest? what happens in conflict with a group that's trying to be more cooperative and communitarian? How do we have those kind of conversations and actually create good agreements that make sure that we can stay together and connected as a community of workers? These nuts, and then also nuts and bolts down to like, we have a new product or service we're developing. How do we reach new markets or new communities to serve without doing marketing by manipulation? And how do we do messaging and value proposition? How do we do this in a way that feels ethical and clean and morally responsible to the communities that we're trying to serve? There's a lot of questions and things. So the sessions 7 through 16 are much more, I say nuts and bolts because it's more details, a lot more details like templates and try this on and try that on. And then sessions 17 and 18 are more back to the big picture of like, okay, what's next for transforming capitalism? And, how can my effort, whatever stage I'm at, job seeking, starting something, growing our cooperative or next economy enterprise, what's my role in transforming the bigger societal change? How can the organization I'm working with become part of social change? And what does Lyft do about that? And what's this alumni community and stuff like that? So that's the general arc of those 18 sessions in terms of like what's in the training. And somebody put in the Eventbrite that, why doesn't Lyft put more about the MBA on our website? Our website is pretty summary, I agree, and we can do a lot better job of communicating about the content about the MBA. So whoever put in that comment, thank you. I respect that comment and agree that we can do a lot better job. It's a good comment. Ryan, did you have anything you want to add?
So that's pretty good overview. Curious if there's anything else folks are holding. Maybe if you asked a question in the Eventbrite and it didn't get answered, feel free to drop it in the chat or let us know. Cool, thanks, Hannah. Well, what do you think, Kevin? Anything else you want to add, or should we wrap and have? I think you put your email in the chat, so if folks want to follow up, feel free. You're still muted, Kevin.
Sorry about that. Yeah, please do feel free to follow up with any of the facilitators. I just want a special call out. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for joining. Really appreciate you and your time, and thanks for answering questions. Dan, I don't want to put you on the spot. Might you be willing to? Could I put your email in as well in case somebody wants to ask an alumni question after the fact?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do it.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Really appreciating you. And yeah, like Aaron said, really grateful for even your interest. And I'll just echo that if participation, if you thought I could see this being valuable, I want to participate, and then you came to the point of looking at the tuition pricing and you're like, but that's a barrier for me, like that's the reason I'm not going to do this. If that's your reason, please do reach out. We want to have a conversation with you. To this point in time, we've been able to find a way to make sure that it works for everybody with no one left out. So if you're legitimately interested in it, let us know. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thanks
everyone
for being here.
Bye.